Welcome back, everyone. I didn't expect to make a video today, but something kind of, well, unexpected happened today. Charlie Kirk is dead. For those of you who don't know, Charlie Kirk is a right-wing dipshit who founded the conservative student activist group Turning Point USA. He has a long history of spreading isolationist right-wing propaganda, um, especially lately against the trans community. And I don't come here to celebrate his death. I just come here with kind of raw thoughts. This video is not scripted. I'm just saying what's on my mind right now. About, I'd say, 4 or 5 hours ago, Charlie Kirk was giving a speech at the University of Utah, and he was cut down by a sniper who fired from a rooftop. And I saw the video. I will not be linking it here, obviously, but you can probably find it if you look for it. It took a while for authorities to confirm that he was dead, but if you've seen the video and you see the wound to his neck, it's just not survivable. As the time of making this video, they haven't caught the shooter yet, so we don't know who did this or why. I see a lot of speculation flying around online that this was some leftist, but people made the same assumption when Trump got shot, and it turned out to not be a leftist. It turned out to be a registered Republican, some 20-year-old loser with a gun who had no real motive to want to shoot Trump. And that could be the case here, or it might not be. Maybe when we find out who did this, maybe we'll have more answers. But the point is, Charlie Kirk is dead. And I don't really know what to say about that, because Charlie Kirk is not someone I really thought very highly of. Charlie Kirk has spent his whole life spreading right-wing propaganda, demonizing lately trans people, but also in the past Muslims, black people, immigrants, Ukraine, and so he was not someone I really thought very highly of. And he was frequently mocked in memes, by and I joined in that. Like I've shared memes of Charlie Kirk, with the face getting smaller and the giant head, and with his ridiculous slogans like, "Dear liberals, my wife left me," stuff like that. But now I don't really know what to say. I want to speak frankly about Charlie Kirk, but at the same time, his body's not even cold yet. And for as much as I hated Charlie Kirk, he had a wife, he had 2 young kids. I can't lose sight of that. And it feels, even though I think it's important to speak in frank terms about him, whether he's alive or dead, it's not lost on me that his family is going through the worst time of their lives right now, and will be for quite a while. I've lost loved ones before, and it's very, very hard. But at the same time, I think it's important to look honestly at Charlie Kirk's life and legacy. I've seen a variety of reactions. I've seen Democrats like former President Biden, AOC, Tim Walz, tripping over themselves to condemn the shooting and political violence in general. And I've seen Republicans do the same thing. But I've also seen people like Elon Musk frame this as, this is why the left is the party of violence. This is why the left is dangerous, why the Democrats should be designated terrorists, why the left are evil and should never be negotiated with because they kill people they disagree with. 3 months ago, a right-wing terrorist in Minnesota murdered 2 Democratic lawmakers and got into a shootout with police. And the GOP was very hesitant to condemn that shooting. In fact, the senator of Utah, Mike Lee, made jokes about it on Twitter. Elon Musk and other right-wing figures spread lies that the shooter was a Democrat, when the shooter was an anti-abortion right-wing extremist. Only one side laughs at political violence, and it's not the Democrats, it's not the left, it's the right. Only one side tried to overthrow the government when they lost an election. One side has been responsible for like 90% of the domestic terror attacks in the United States, and it's not the left, it's the right. Again, I don't know who the shooter is of Charlie Kirk yet. No one knows yet. The shooter apparently got away from the scene. I'm sure they'll find out who it is eventually. But the irony is not lost on me that the GOP, that the Republicans, the right wing, who are so quick to use this incident to paint the Democrats and the left as terrorists and thugs and violent criminals, are the same ones who gleefully mocked the dead Democratic lawmakers in Minnesota, or pardoned the insurrectionists at the Capitol, or falsely claimed that the shooter of the Democratic lawmakers in Minnesota was a Democrat. They're the ones who are so used to political violence and take such joy in seeing it against their political enemies. And now when it's revisited on them, they have the gall to turn around and accuse the left of being the violent party. But, that's kind of a whole nother discussion. I could talk for hours about why the real domestic terror threat comes from the right and not the left. The Oklahoma City bombing, the murder of Alan Berg, the storming of the Capitol, the attempted kidnapping of Gretchen Whitmer. All these were right-wing terrorists. But I want to return to Charlie Kirk, because Charlie Kirk, I think this is interesting. He was shot while in the middle of a speech where he demonized trans people. There was a shooting a couple weeks ago where a detransitioned man, a man who had once identified as a woman but detransitioned to a man, killed 2 children at a school in Minnesota. And the right wing immediately leapt to use that as an excuse to smear trans people. The Department of Justice actually is considering banning trans people from owning guns in response to this shooting. And so the right-wing narrative lately has been trans people are a threat. Trans people are the ones who are out to kill your kids. They're the ones out to shoot schools. Trans people make up about 0.1% of all mass shooters. And again, who knows who the person who killed Charlie Kirk was? We don't know yet. I've already seen people claiming it was a trans leftist or whatever. Truth is, we don't know. It could be anyone right now. But anyway, when Charlie Kirk was shot, he was in the middle of talking about how trans people, too many, in his words, trans people were school shooters. And then he was shot seconds later. And I think that's sadly a microcosm for the legacy that Charlie Kirk left behind. He lived and died a bigot. He lived and died a man who was spreading hatred, fear, and bigotry against marginalized people. So, with all of that said and done, looking at him, I'm sorry, I can't feel too bad for him. That doesn't mean I'm happy he's dead. Like I said, he had a wife and kids. I'm sorry for his wife, who has just lost her husband. I'm sorry for his 2 young kids who've lost a father. But as for Charlie Kirk, he dedicated his life to spreading hate propaganda against immigrants. He spread the lie about Haitians eating pets last year, the dehumanizing lie that led to hate crimes and harassment against the Haitian community in Ohio. He has demonized immigrants, Muslims, gay people, trans people. He's bought into the groomer lie. He spread the lies about trans people being groomers who are out to rape your kids. So while I'm sad for his family, I just can't feel too bad that he's gone. I want to reiterate, I condemn political violence in all its forms. We should not live in a society where people can where we shoot our political opponents because we disagree with them. Again, we don't know whether that was the case here. We don't know why. I don't know. We don't know who the shooter was in this case. We don't know why he shot at Charlie Kirk, but this on top of the shooting the Minnesota lawmakers, the attempted kidnapping of Gretchen Whitmer, the attempted storming the Capitol. This shows that America is in a really bad place when it comes to political violence and how normalized it's become, and how this rhetoric of political violence is also normalized. And Charlie Kirk, ironically, contributed to that. He spread bigoted lies about marginalized people. In fact, he continued to do that, to spread hatred, isolationism, and bigotry up till the moment that he got shot. And I think that's the real tragedy here. I'm not sad that I'm not sad that Charlie Kirk is dead, but I'm not happy that he's dead either. I want to make that clear. I'm not happy that Charlie Kirk is dead. I guess I'm sad that he died for nothing. And that the life he did lead in his 31 years on this earth was so utterly wasted.